A billionaire's baby cried nonstop on a plane for 3 hours, until a poor black boy from economy class walked forward and did something no one expected. Passengers laughed at him. Flight attendants tried to stop him. But the moment he touched the baby, everyone froze. What he did next didn't just silence the entire plane, it changed a billionaire's life forever. Please make it stop. The shout didn't just echo. It ripped through the first-class cabin like a wave of panic. Passengers twisted in their expensive leather seats. Some covered their ears. Others exchanged irritated glances. Even the flight attendants, trained to stay calm through anything, struggled to hide their worry. Because the crying wasn't normal. It was sharp, painful, nonstop. It had started the moment the billionaire stepped onto the plane, and it had only gotten worse. Sitting in the middle of the chaos, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that did nothing to hide his exhaustion, was Alexander Grant, one of the richest, most powerful men in the world. His name alone opened doors, moved markets, and silenced entire boardrooms. But today, he wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't a CEO. He was just a father who didn't know what to do. His 8-month-old daughter, Lily, screamed with a force that seemed to come from every tiny bone in her body. Her face was bright red, her mouth wide open, her fists shaking uncontrollably as tears streamed down her cheeks. Alexander tried rocking her. He tried whispering to her. He tried bouncing her gently, checking her diaper, adjusting her blanket. Nothing worked. A woman across the aisle rolled her eyes dramatically. "Sir," she snapped, loud enough for half the cabin to hear. "Can you control your child? This is first class. We paid for quiet." He wanted to ignore her. He wanted to keep calm. But the truth was, he couldn't control anything. Not right now. Not with his heart pounding in fear. He swallowed hard, his throat tight with a kind of panic he hadn't felt since the day Lily was born. He could handle billion-dollar mergers with no sweat. He could negotiate contracts that lasted 18 hours straight. He could face cameras, interviews, scandals, critics. But this tiny baby in his arms, made him feel helpless. Completely helpless. He whispered to her, his voice shaking. "Please, sweetheart, tell Daddy what you need." Lily's cries only grew louder, filling the entire cabin with a raw, piercing sound that made passengers flinch. One man muttered under his breath, "This is ridiculous, shouldn't a billionaire hire a nanny?" Another whispered, "Poor kid. He has no idea what he's doing." Alexander heard every word, every judgment, every sigh, and it cut deeper than he expected. He wasn't used to being judged. People feared him, respected him, pretended around him. But now, right now, he was just another parent failing in public. A flight attendant approached, her smile polite but strained. "Mr. Grant, is there anything we can get for you? Warm water? Blankets? Something for the baby?" He shook his head weakly. I don't know. She's never cried like this." The attendant hesitated, unsure what to say. There wasn't much she could say. Babies cried. Yes, but this one sounded like she was in real distress. Alexander's mind raced. Was she sick? Was she in pain? Did something happen during the rush to the airport? Was she scared? He tried everything again, checking her ears, her neck, her back. Nothing. The crying wouldn't stop. The frustrated murmurs grew louder. A businessman grumbled. "This is unacceptable. I have a meeting in 3 hours, and this noise is killing me." A woman covered her face dramatically. "Ugh, my head." Someone pressed the assistance button repeatedly. A man snapped at a flight attendant. "I am not sitting through a 5-hour flight with that child screaming the entire time." Every complaint hit Alexander like a punch. He felt the pressure rising in his chest, the guilt tightening around him like a rope. He didn't want to cry. Not here, not in front of strangers. But a piece of him cracked inside. He had lost his wife 8 months ago. He had buried himself in work, thinking he could outrun the grief. But no amount of money or power could replace a mother. And now Lily, his only reminder of her, was crying in a way he couldn't fix. He held her close, pressing his cheek to her tiny head. "It's okay, baby. Daddy's here." "Daddy's here," he whispered, though he didn't believe his own words anymore. He felt every muscle in his body trembling. His hands shook as he rocked her. His vision blurred, not from exhaustion, but from the fear of failing the one person who needed him most. Lily's cry peaked, loud, sharp, heartbreaking. And the cabin fell completely silent except for her. Only one person didn't groan or complain. Only one didn't look away in irritation. From economy class, behind a thin curtain separating the wealthy from the ordinary, a skinny teenage boy sat quietly, watching everything. His clothes were faded. His shoes were worn out. His backpack was old but carefully patched. His face was young, maybe 14 or 15. His skin was dark, his eyes gentle, eyes that understood struggle more than comfort. He watched the billionaire with something the others didn't have. Not judgment, not annoyance, just empathy. His mother nudged him, whispering, "Malik, don't stare. Those are rich people's problems. Keep to yourself, okay?" But Malik couldn't look away. He saw something nobody else bothered to see. Not a billionaire, not a CEO, not a powerful man losing control. He saw father, a scared, tired, overwhelmed father doing everything he could for his baby. Malik had heard that kind of cry before, from cousins he helped babysit, from neighbor kids he soothed, from babies he calmed at church when the mothers needed a break. His mother always said he had a gift, a strange, gentle ability to quiet any child, no matter how upset. And right now, watching Lily's tiny face twisted in pain, seeing the panic in her father's eyes, Malik felt something stir inside him. A pull, a responsibility, a feeling that he couldn't ignore. Without thinking, without fear of the first-class curtain or the angry passengers or the rules, Malik slowly unbuckled his seatbelt. His mother grabbed his arm. "Malik, where are you going? You can't just walk up there." But Malik's eyes stayed fixed on the crying baby. He whispered, so quietly his mother barely heard it, "She needs help." And before anyone could stop him, he stood up and began walking toward first class. His name was Malik, a thin 14-year-old boy wearing worn-out sneakers, a faded hoodie, and carrying the kind of quiet dignity that only comes from surviving more than a child ever should. His curly hair was slightly messy from rushing through the airport. His jeans were a little too short. His backpack was old, patched 3 times on the side. He looked like a kid the world rarely noticed. But those who did notice quickly realized he had the gentlest eyes. The kind that saw pain instead of noise. The kind that felt instead of judged. Malik and his mother had been traveling for hours. They were returning home after spending a week caring for his sick grandmother. Her hospital bills had drained what little money the family had. They skipped meals to afford medicine. They slept in uncomfortable bus stations. They arrived at the airport with barely enough money for the cheapest tickets. They didn't buy snacks. They didn't buy water. They didn't buy anything. But they were grateful to be going home. Yet as tired as Malik was, he noticed everything, especially the sound of Lily's screams. While other passengers groaned and rolled their eyes, Malik's heart tightened. He knew that kind of cry. He had heard it from babies during storms, at funerals, at crowded family gatherings. He knew when a baby was tired, scared, or hurting. This one was hurting. He knew it in his bones. His mother nudged him gently. "Don't stare, baby," she whispered, voice low but firm. "That's first class. Those people don't want us near them." She said it with love, not anger. Love born from years of being pushed aside, ignored, judged. She just wanted her son to be safe, to avoid trouble. But Malik kept listening. He didn't hear rich people complaining. He didn't see luxury seats or fancy headphones. He didn't notice the self-important looks or expensive watches. He heard a baby crying like her little world was falling apart. A baby he wanted to help. His chest ached with the instinct to do something, anything. Malik had grown up in a neighborhood where everyone helped raise everyone else's kids. Babysitting came naturally to him. Holding babies, soothing babies, calming babies, it was the one thing he knew he was good at. It was his quiet gift. He didn't talk about it. He didn't brag. He just helped whenever he could. And now Lily needed help. Before his mother could stop him, before fear could hold him back, Malik's fingers reached for the seatbelt buckle. Click. He stood. The people around him frowned, confused. Where's that kid going? Hey, sit down. The plane hasn't taken off. Is he lost or something? But Malik didn't hear them. His heartbeat drowned out every sound except Lily's cries. He took one step toward the first-class curtain. Then, another. A third. Passengers gasped when he reached the edge of the section nobody, like him, ever dared to cross. A flight attendant spotted him instantly, hurrying over with wide eyes. Sir, sweetie, you can't be up here, she whispered urgently. This is first class. Please go back to your seat before someone complains. Malik stopped, awkward and shy, but he didn't turn around. He looked past the attendant, right at Alexander Grant. The billionaire's eyes were red, desperate, exhausted, looking at Malik not with judgment, but with a silent plea for help. And then Alexander said the words that stunned everyone. Wait. His voice wasn't commanding or irritated, the way billionaires and stories were supposed to sound. It was soft, broken. Let him come. A hush fell across the cabin. The businesswoman who had complained earlier froze mid-breath. The businessman with the loud sighs looked confused. The flight attendant blinked, as if she wasn't sure she'd heard correctly. A billionaire allowing a poor kid in faded clothes to approach him? That never happened. But Alexander didn't care what people thought anymore. His daughter was crying like her tiny body was on fire. If anyone said they could help, he would take that chance. The attendant stepped aside. Malik walked forward, every movement slow and respectful, like he was entering a sacred place. When he reached Alexander, he spoke softly. Sir, I think I can help your baby. Alexander stared at him. You? How? Malik swallowed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. I don't know why, he admitted honestly. Babies just like me. They always have. A few passengers scoffed. Oh please, he's just a kid. This is ridiculous. But Alexander didn't look away. He studied Malik's eyes, steady, calm, full of sincerity. Something in that boy felt trustworthy. Something in him felt safe. Alexander exhaled shakily. I have nothing left to try, he whispered. If you think you can help, please. He held Lily out with trembling hands. Malik stepped closer, carefully, gently, tenderly, and Alexander slowly placed his screaming daughter into the arms of a boy he had never met. The entire plane watched. Every passenger leaned in, holding their breath. Lily's face was still red, tears streaming, her tiny fists clenched, until her cheek rested on Malik's chest. Her cries wavered, softened, fell silent. Just like that, the screaming stopped. The airplane, which had moments ago been filled with noise and complaints and frustration, went silent. A baby who had cried for nearly 20 minutes, without pause, was now quiet. Her breathing slowed, her fists unclenched. Her tiny head nestled into Malik's hoodie, as if she had known him forever. A soft, peaceful sigh escaped her lips. Alexander's mouth fell open in disbelief. Flight attendants froze. Passengers stared with wide eyes. Even Malik's mother, still half a cabin away, covered her mouth in shock. Malik looked down at the baby, his expression melting into a gentle smile. It's okay, he whispered softly to Lily. You're okay now. And in that moment, for the first time since boarding the plane, the billionaire's daughter was calm, safe, peaceful, and everyone knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary. Lily not only stopped crying, she giggled. A soft, joyful, unexpected little giggle that cut through the heavy silence like sunlight bursting into a dark room. The passengers who had been glaring, complaining, and muttering angrily froze. The businessman who had been pressing the flight attendant button stared with his mouth half open. The woman who demanded peace blinked rapidly, as if her brain couldn't compute the transformation she was seeing. The couple in the front row turned around, whispering to each other in disbelief. Lily giggled again, this time reaching her tiny hand up toward Malik's chin, gently tapping it like she had discovered something fascinating. A few passengers gasped softly. They had seen babies calm down before. But this was magic. Malik smiled, a warm, unforced smile that seemed to spread across his whole face. He began rocking Lily the way he'd seen his grandmother rock crying babies on long nights when storms rattled the windows. A simple rhythm. Back and forth. Slow, gentle, steady. He hummed a tune. An old lullaby his grandmother sang in Creole, something soft and soothing, something that carried comfort even without words. The gentle sound wrapped around the cabin like a warm blanket. Lily's eyes fluttered. Her fists relaxed completely. She melted into Malik's shoulder with a peace she hadn't felt since before boarding. Alexander stared like he was watching a miracle unfold. His lips parted. His chest rose and fell with long, shaky breaths. He couldn't even blink. He was terrified the moment would vanish. How did you do that?" he whispered. And it truly was a whisper, coming from a man who normally commanded boardrooms with thunder. Malik shrugged shyly, his voice quiet but steady. "She just needed someone calm. Babies feel our hearts. Yours is tired, sir." The words hit Alexander harder than any insult, harder than any headline, harder than any business failure. He felt them like a punch. Because Malik wasn't wrong. His heart was tired. Tired from the grief of losing his wife. Tired from pretending he was okay. Tired from trying to balance work, fatherhood, loneliness, and expectations. Tired from thinking he had to be strong all the time. For the first time in months, someone had seen right through the billionaire shell and into the scared, grieving father underneath. And that someone was a 14-year-old boy. Meanwhile, Malik gently shifted Lily in his arms, walking slowly down the aisle, still humming the lullaby. Lily grabbed the edge of his hoodie with her tiny fingers, rubbing the soft fabric like it belonged to her. She cooed quietly, making little bubbles with her lips. Passengers followed Malik's every move with wide, fascinated eyes. A man whispered, "Who is that boy?" A woman leaned closer to her husband and murmured, "Is he related to the billionaire? He must be, right?" Another shook her head, still hypnotized by the sight. "I've never seen something like this. Ever." One of the flight attendants clutched her chest dramatically, tears forming. "Oh my God," she whispered to another attendant. "Do you see this? He's amazing." Even the pilot peeked out from the cockpit for a moment to see what everyone was talking about. Malik didn't notice any of them. He was focused entirely on Lily, patting her back softly, swaying in small steps. He checked her forehead the way his grandmother taught him. He traced gentle circles on her back with his thumb. He whispered soothing little sounds that only babies understood. He was in his own rhythm, his own world, the peaceful world he created for every child he touched. Alexander watched, every muscle in his body slowly relaxing, shoulders dropping, jaw unclenching, breath deepening. He didn't realize how tight his chest had been until the tension finally left. For the first time since boarding the flight, for the first time in what felt like hours, for the first time since Lily's mother passed, he could breathe normally. He pressed his hand to his forehead, overwhelmed. His daughter, his precious daughter, was safe. Not crying, not hurting. Because of this boy who didn't have much. This boy whose clothes were worn and faded. This boy who society overlooked without a second glance. This boy who had walked courageously into first class, crossing an invisible line most people feared. A boy the world ignored, but who had a heart rich with something money could never buy. The same passengers who scolded Alexander minutes earlier now looked at Malik with awe. A woman whispered, "He's like a baby whisperer." A man in a suit shook his head in disbelief. "That kid has a gift. A real gift." A family nearby watched with soft smiles. "He's so gentle, look at how he holds her." A teenage girl quickly snapped a photo whispering, "I've never seen anything so sweet." Even passengers who earlier rolled their eyes now watched quietly, humbled. Meanwhile, Malik continued humming, swaying lightly. Lily rested her head on his shoulder, her eyes closing as she drifted into peaceful sleep. His mother finally reached the edge of first class, her eyes wide as saucers. She whispered urgently, "Malik, baby, what are you doing?" "Oh my goodness." But when she saw Lily asleep, saw the billionaire watching her son with gratitude, not anger. Her voice softened to a stunned whisper. Oh my God. She covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. She knew her son was special. She knew he had a gift. But seeing him calm a billionaire's baby in seconds, seeing a whole plane fall silent because of him, it almost didn't feel real. Alexander stepped toward Malik slowly, as if approaching something sacred. He placed a trembling hand on the boy's shoulder. "Thank you," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea what you just did." Malik didn't look up. He just smiled at the peacefully sleeping baby and said quietly, "She trusted me. That's all." But Alexander knew it was much more. This wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't a moment that just happened. This was grace, kindness, humanity. A boy who owned nothing, but gave everything, and changed everything. When the plane landed, Malik tried to hand Lily back, but Lily clung to him tightly, her tiny fists gripping the fabric of his shirt like she was afraid the world would shake again if she let go. Her face was still damp from her earlier cries, but she had finally stopped trembling. Despite everything, she looked peaceful against Malik's shoulder. Alexander's eyes softened at the sight. "She really likes you," he said quietly, amazed. Malik shrugged with a shy smile. "She's a sweetheart." She just felt scared. It wasn't just the words. It was the calm, steady way Malik held her. Gentle, instinctive. Like he'd been protecting babies his whole life, even though he was barely a teenager. Alexander crouched down to Malik's eye level, his expression sincere, not the stiff, polite smile the world expected from a wealthy CEO, but a raw, honest look. "Thank you," he said. "You saved her and me." Malik blinked, confused. "I just helped the baby. That's all." But to Alexander, it wasn't just anything. For months after losing his wife, he had done everything alone: diapers, bottles, sleepless nights. The physical exhaustion he could handle. It was the emotional part that broke him. He didn't know how to soothe Lily the way his wife used to. He didn't know how to sing to her, or rock her right, or read what her sounds meant. He tried. God, he tried. But every time Lily cried, he felt like a failure all over again. He buried himself in work, thinking money and stability were what mattered most. But somewhere along the way, he forgot how to be gentle. And then this boy, this stranger, sat with his daughter for 10 minutes and reminded him that Lily didn't need perfection. She needed presence. She needed warmth. She needed someone who wasn't afraid to hold her. Then Malik's mother finally reached them, breathless and flustered from rushing through the aisle. "Malik," she gasped, grabbing her son's arm. "I told you not to bother these people." Alexander immediately stood tall, shifting Lily to one arm while protecting Malik with the other, like a silent shield. "Ma'am, your son didn't bother us," he said firmly. "He saved us." Malik's mother froze. She looked from her son to the wealthy man holding a sleeping baby, then to the flight attendants behind them who nodded in agreement. Embarrassment washed over her face, followed quickly by concern. "I'm so sorry," she said, voice shaky. He always runs off trying to help someone. I keep telling him the world doesn't work that way." Alexander shook his head gently. "Well, it should." Malik lowered his gaze, suddenly shy under the praise. His mother squeezed his shoulder, and even though she still looked confused, a quiet pride flickered in her eyes. The passengers around them were starting to shuffle out. Lily slept peacefully, breathing softly against Malik's chest, refusing to let go even as Alexander tried again to ease her away. Finally, Alexander laughed under his breath. "Looks like she chose her favorite person." Malik's cheeks warmed. Alexander cleared his throat and turned to Malik's mother again. "If it's okay," he began carefully, "could we all get some lunch together at the airport? I'd really like to thank him properly." Immediately, Malik's mother shook her head. "Sir, we can't afford." "I didn't ask you to pay," Alexander said gently, offering a small, reassuring smile. "I want to do this. Please, let me show my gratitude." His tone was not pitying, not boastful, just sincere. Malik's mother hesitated. She was used to declining kindness. Years of scraping had taught her that nothing was ever truly free. But her son looked up at her, hope shining in his eyes, and for once, she didn't want to say no. "All right," she whispered. "If you're sure." Alexander nodded gratefully. As they walked out through the jet bridge, Lily still clinging to Malik's shirt, Alexander kept glancing at the boy, studying him. He spoke softly, asking questions, offering smiles. The distance he usually kept from strangers dissolved entirely. He found himself walking slower, matching Malik's shorter pace. He found himself talking in a calm tone he hadn't used in a long time. When they reached the terminal, the warm scent of fresh bread and grilled food drifted from the nearby restaurants. Malik's stomach growled loudly, embarrassing him. He hadn't eaten since early morning. Alexander pretended not to notice, but he did. He noticed everything now. He chose a quiet airport cafe tucked near the windows, the kind with soft lighting and comfortable booths. He motioned them inside and said, "Please, sit wherever you like." Malik's mother looked overwhelmed by how upscale it felt. White plates, real cutlery, glass cups that sparkled under the lights. She touched the edge of the tablecloth as if afraid she might stain it. Alexander sat across from them, Lily still drifting in and out of sleep. She finally loosened her grip on Malik, but her tiny hand rested on his sleeve like she was making sure he didn't go far. A waiter came by with menus. Malik's mother opened hers carefully, scanning prices with wide eyes. Everything was far above anything she could usually afford. Malik leaned over and whispered, "Mom, can I get a burger?" She swallowed. "We'll see what he says, okay." Alexander overheard and smiled kindly. "You can get whatever you want." Malik's mother blushed. "Sir, I don't want to take advantage." "You're not," he replied. "I insist." She nodded silently. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then Alexander leaned forward, elbows gently resting on the table. "Malik," he said softly, "can I ask you something? How did you know what to do with Lily when she was crying?" Malik thought for a moment. "I just remembered how I calmed my little cousin. Babies get scared. You just have to show them you're not leaving." Alexander swallowed hard. That simple sentence hit him deeper than any speech, any grief counseling session, any well-meaning advice from relatives. Show them you're not leaving. He smiled, small but genuine. "You're a remarkable kid, Malik." Malik lowered his gaze, pretending to wipe his hands on his pants, but the compliment warmed him. His mother watched them both, quietly. For the first time since her husband walked out, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hop at the airport restaurant. Malik made Lily laugh for nearly an hour. He blew little raspberries on her tiny palm. He tapped her nose and made goofy faces. He bounced her gently on his knee while whispering, "Up, up, up and down." Each time she squealed with delight, the whole section of the restaurant glanced over. People passing by slowed down, smiling at the unusual sight. A billionaire in a suit, sitting beside a skinny boy in worn-out sneakers, both taking turns entertaining a cheerful baby, as if they had known each other for years. A flight attendant who had recognized them from the plane even stopped near their table, whispering to her colleague, Is he really having lunch with them?" Her colleague nodded. "Looks like it." But Alexander didn't care about the staring. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about business calls, stock performance, or the empty side of the bed waiting for him every night. He was thinking about this boy who had stepped in when he couldn't. About the way Lily kept reaching for Malik's hands like they were the safest place in the world. After lunch, when the plates were cleared and Malik helped Lily pat the table like it was a drum, Alexander leaned forward, elbows resting lightly on the white cloth. His voice was gentle, but there was purpose behind it. "Malik, do you like kids?" Malik brightened immediately. "I love them." He wasn't pretending. His eyes sparkled in a way that only truth can make them sparkle. Alexander nodded slowly. "And school? Do you like that too?" Malik hesitated. He didn't want to disappoint him. He didn't want to sound lazy or ungrateful. "I try my best, sir," he said honestly, "but I don't have much time to study. I help my mom with work after school. Sometimes before school, too." His mother stiffened, embarrassment washing over her like a tide. She looked down quickly, smoothing the napkin in her lap, as if straightening it might straighten her guilt too. Alexander didn't judge. Not for a second. In fact, his respect for them only deepened. He had grown up with everything money could buy: tutors, private schools, heated pools, summer camps. He had never had to work a day in his childhood. And somehow, despite all that privilege, he had never grown to have a heart as pure as this boy sitting across from him. He took a deep breath. "Malik," he said carefully, "what if I told you that I want to sponsor your education?" Malik froze mid-blink. "Completely," Alexander continued. "Private school, supplies, uniforms, transportation, everything." Malik choked on his water. What? Why?" he sputtered, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. Alexander's face softened, warmed by something deeper than kindness: admiration. "Because," he said, voice thick with gratitude, "the world needs more hearts like yours. And I want to help you become whatever you dream of." Malik just stared at him. His brain couldn't wrap around word that big. He felt like someone had opened a door he didn't even know existed. His mother's hand flew to her mouth, and tears spilled instantly down her cheeks, quiet at first, then uncontrollable. She shook her head, more in disbelief than refusal. "Sir, we can't accept." "You can," Alexander insisted gently, but firmly. "This isn't charity." He placed his hand on the table, palm open. "It's gratitude." Malik's mother let out a trembling breath. These were words she wasn't used to hearing. No one had ever thanked them for anything. No one had ever looked at her son like he was valuable, brilliant, worthy of anything more than survival. Malik stared at his mom, unsure whether to smile or cry. His hands shook against the edge of the table. "Mom," he whispered, voice breaking. "He's serious." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I know, baby. I know." Lily, sensing the emotion in the air, reached her tiny arms toward Malik again. He lifted her, holding her close while she giggled and grabbed his ear like it was her favorite toy. Alexander watched the moment with a swelling chest. The boy was gentle, patient, kind. All the things he feared he no longer knew how to be. A waiter walking by whispered, "That boy's going to do something amazing one day." Alexander silently agreed. He leaned back, inhaling deeply, then looked at Malik with a seriousness that made the boy straighten up. "I want you to promise me something," Alexander said. Malik swallowed. "Okay. If I sponsor your education, if I help you get to a place where your dreams are possible, would you give me one thing in return?" Malik blinked. "What, sir?" "A promise that you won't stop being the kind of person you are. The world will try to change you. Don't let it." Malik's eyes widened. He nodded slowly. "I won't, sir. I promise." Alexander exhaled, deeply moved. He hadn't realized how much he needed to hear those words, not just from Malik, but from someone who reminded him of his wife's gentle heart. He looked at Malik's mother next. "Ma'am, I want you to know something. This isn't about guilt or pity. It's about recognizing goodness when you see it. Your son helped Lily, but he helped me too. More than he knows." More tears spilled down her cheeks. Lily squealed suddenly, grabbing Malik's nose. And Malik laughed, a full, bright laugh that echoed through the restaurant and made two nearby tables turn and smile. Alexander felt something shift inside his chest. Right there, between glasses of water and half-melted ice cream, between the hum of travelers rushing to their gates and the soft clatter of plates behind the counter, a billionaire made a promise that changed a boy's life forever. A promise that stitched hope into places where hope had been missing for years. A poor boy who did the unthinkable. A boy who quieted a baby and awakened a billionaire's heart. In a world where money divides people, a boy with nothing reminded a billionaire of everything that truly matters. Kindness, heart, humanity. Sometimes the smallest hands make the biggest change. If this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, so more people remember that one act of compassion can change someone's entire life.